Hey y'all, Father Jim Haney from St. Paul's in the Plains in Lubbock. When I was in college, this song came out. That song is Rock of Ages by Def Leppard, one of the second wave of the British invasion bands in the early 80s, certainly on the harder end of that spectrum musically. Def Leppard's album Pyromania, from which Rock of Ages is taken, went to #2 on the American charts. They were hitting it big time. Things were exciting for the band. They had four top 10 singles off that album, including 2 number ones, one of which was Rock of Ages. But then they had a real setback in the band. Their drummer, Rick Allen, got in a car wreck and lost his entire left arm. It was severed in the car accident. Had to be amputated. And just a horrible, horrible thing for him. And in the world of rock and roll, people tend to be a little bit expendable. Usually if somebody drops out of a band for some reason, you just get somebody else to replace them. There are other musicians out there. And yet Def Leppard did something rather remarkable. In the midst of their career, coming off a #2 album, they put their careers on hold and they waited. They waited until their friend, their bandmate, their buddy Rick could learn to drum again with one arm and to use his 2 legs a little bit differently. And within just a couple of years, with a custom-made drum set and some heavy-duty practice, Rick was back on stage with Def Leppard. And not only that, they recorded another album, Hysteria, and that went to #1, even higher than Pyromania did. And their next album also went to #1, Adrenalize. So remarkably, their career hit even higher peaks than it did before Rick lost his arm. One of the amazing things about that story to me is that act of friendship, that act of love by the other members of the band for their friend Rick. And that's an incredible reminder to us as Christians. We don't always think of the importance of love, and maybe we should, the importance of friendship. There's a remarkable book by a scholar named Rodney Stark. I've talked about this in sermons before. It's called The Rise of Christianity, How the Obscure Marginal Jesus Movement Became the Dominant Religious Force in Western Culture in a Few Centuries. And what Stark says in this book is that there were several factors that encouraged the growth of the early church, and the growth was pretty phenomenal. In year 100, there were probably about 7,500 Christians, as best we can estimate, in the world. 7,500 in the year 100. And by the year 300, there were 6.3 million Christians. And Stark says that looking at the history of the church and doing heavy-duty sociological research, that the main reason is the way that Christians treated each other and the way they treated others in the world. They cared for the poor, they cared for each other. They exhibited Christian love in a way that was absolutely unique in the Roman Empire and just unheard of, really, in their cultural context. And so I would leave you with that thought. Def Leppard loved their drummer enough that they waited for him. And we Christians are called to love one another to an even higher standard, as much as God, as much as Jesus has loved us. And so be the church, be loving people. Love those outside the church and love those who are members of the body of Christ with you. God bless and have a great day.